Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I am Donna Maloney, and I'm Chair of the Charter Club Committee, and I will call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda, establish a quorum. We have all committee members present. Next item on the agenda, minutes from October 5th meeting, and I would ask, do we have any amendments or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, they will stand as written. I would like to move into new business. First, we will go back to old business. First item under new business is Charter Clubs RR&Ps regarding insurance. And everyone will notice that this was discussed at the last meeting, and there was great concern over deductibilities and that responsibility falling on clubs. The changes that are being recommended on this item 4.01 is the removal of the deductible. The rec center will be responsible for deductibles. So we will be moving in, this is on page 3031 of the RR&Ps under insurance. Letter A, we will be removing property coverage is subject to a deductible of $1,000 per claim, which may be the club's responsibility and covers is deleted. And we will make an addition to the last sentence, which will say, coverage is only on property that is on the club's equipment inventory on file with the association's accounting office. And that references the RR&Ps Chapter 4, Roman numeral 9. Letter B, liability insurance outside Sun City West. There is no change to that letter B. Letter C, the change is removing the last sentence. The association's own property used by the club is covered by the association insurance subject to a $5,000 deductible provision. And again, the recommended change is to delete that sentence. Under letter D, fidelity coverage, the change is the association has fidelity coverage regarding the acts of its employees and trustees. The coverage is extended to the charter club's activities. We are removing subject to a $1,000 deductible with a limit of $10,000. Should this deductible fidelity exposure be a concern to any club, the concerned club may obtain its own coverage. And I would like to now state that I need to add an addendum to this recommendation because it was discovered right before this meeting that on page 37 of the RR&Ps, there is another address to the deductible. And this is on number 6. And we would like to remove the items valued less than $300 on the simplified inventory list are subject to a $1,000 deductible, which is the club's responsibility. We will be removing that sentence as well. I open it up now to committee members for any discussion. Comments? Any comments from the audience? All righty, I would like to ask for consensus from the committee to move these corrections or these recommendations forward to the governing board workshop. All those in favor? Aye. Any nays? All righty, we will move the insurance recommendations forward to the governing board workshop. Moving on to 4.02, this is Charter Club's interior remodeling requests. And again, this was the result of a recommendation from actually the workshop, at the workshop meeting. And this again is on page 37 to 38 under repairs of equipment and or facility. And this was brought up due to the fact that Rip and Sew has approval for moving forward on an improvement to their facility, and we have a conflict in the RRPs which says, if approved, clubs will bear the cost of materials and labor. Unfortunately, Rip and Sew does not have the funds to have this done, and so it was suggested that we change will to may, and this is the second to the last sentence on letter C, repairs of equipment and/or facility. We are changing it to, if approved, clubs may bear the cost of materials and labor. I ask the committee, any comments, questions? Anything from the, Carol.
What determines the may?
What determines demand?
The may of the club. Is it how much they have for funds?
I think the determination is, first of all, it comes to us, the Charter Club Committee, to determine if it truly is a need. And if it truly is a need, then it goes forward to Properties Committee. They make a determination on, again, dealing with property in the facility, then Budget and Finance, and then it goes to the workshop with all those recommendations. And so because Rip and Sew does not have the funds, then it's determined by the governing board if they will approve the recommendation we make.
Thank you.
Good? Everybody? All righty. So may I have consensus? All in favor of moving this to the workshop? Any nays? All righty. We will move that forward. Next item on the agenda is 4.03, and this has to do with the operating bank account. And again, on this item, this has been continually brought to my attention that there's a lot of unhappiness with this in our RR&Ps. And so this is again on page 33 of the RR&Ps, and I have verified with Association Financial Department. They are not objecting to removing this from the RR&Ps. And this is letter F, and we are talking about removing the last sentence which says, year-end balances should be no more than 110% of the previous year's operating expenses. Recreation Activities Manager may approve exceptions. So the recommendation is to remove that language from the RR&Ps. Any comments or concerns from the committee? Anything from the audience? If you would step to the mic, please, and give your name and rec card number, Gwen.
Gwen Rhodes, rec card number 125. Oh, Lord. 271? I'll get it in a minute for you. Question for you, Donna, and I am treasurer of the yoga club. Question for you. It still says IRS compliant. Do we know what the current IRS compliance requirement is? Is it currently 110%? Do we know?
No, it
Okay.
is not currently 110%. That was put in as a guideline. But because we have different tax status clubs, the best language is to make sure you are IRS compliant.
Thanks. Thanks. 125791.
Very good. Thank you. All righty. Any other comments from the audience? All righty. I would like to take by consensus from the committee to move this forward to the workshop. All those in favor? Any nays? All righty. We will move that recommendation forward to the governing board workshop. Thank you. Next item is 4.03, and this has to do with monitoring. And I will turn this over to Karen, our committee member. Karen, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. As you can see, we would like to add item D, which says club bylaws should set forth monitoring requirements and membership privileges which may be denied for monitoring non-compliance. We spent a lot of time and effort on space utilization. However, there is one other factor affecting utilization that we have not addressed, and that is monitoring. We clearly state no monitor, no use of the room. Many clubs have this issue. Most have monitor requirements in their rules, regulations, or bylaws, but the truth is they also need a path for enforcement. Some members do not get it that with membership also comes responsibility. People should not be able to ignore their responsibility when in doing so, it penalizes other members and the club. While we cannot deny membership, there are member rights, and then there are special events and privileges above and beyond the normal use of the room and equipment. Recognizing a distinction might be helpful as a tool to increase monitor participation. Each club needs the right to individually set forth their monitoring requirements and the consequences for not fulfilling them in their club rules and regulations and bylaws. By adding item D, this will help to the R&Ps. It clarifies this authority for each club.
Thank you, Karen. Any comments from the committee? Any comments from the audience? All righty. I will ask for consensus then to move this forward to the governing board workshop. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All righty. We will move this forward to the governing board workshop for recommendation. Moving on to 4.05, reciprocity. Casey, you're up. All right.
Good afternoon. I'm just doing a quick update on where we're at, which is not too far. We have some clubs that claim they have reciprocity with many communities, about 7 different communities. I have sent emails and left voicemails and still waiting responses. If I don't hear back, I will find out who I need to contact in regards to that. So unfortunately, I don't have as much of an update as I planned, but still in the process. And that is for a few of our sporting clubs, particularly. And that's all I have for that.
Okay. You're still up, Casey, on chartered clubs.
Okay. I just want to give one quick update. We have 2 clubs that have officially dissolved. So I just want to say that we are at 101 clubs as we stand today.
And those clubs that have dissolved are?
Latin Ballroom and Canasta.
Thank you. All righty, next item on the agenda is again Charter Club RR&Ps, and this is regarding the task assignment that was given to Joel Payakowski and Mary Kay Vidal. This was to look at redundancy and to try to make the language in the RR&Ps more concise. And so I am just to report that Joel and Mary Kay have had their first meeting, and some adjustments have been recommended. And I am happy to report that the attorney and the expert CPA has responded to all questions regarding the tax status issue. And now we are prepared to move forward with finishing with the RR&Ps regarding their responses. And so we will be scheduling another meeting, Joel and Mary Kay. And again, these meetings will also include Casey and myself. And we have also given Finance Department copies of Chapter 4 of the RR&Ps, which is financial information, and asking them to do the same thing, verify the information is correct with our expert advice, and again, trying to reduce redundancy and make it more concise for all clubs. So I'm kind of excited about that. That's kind of a good thing. So again, hopefully maybe at the next meeting we will be able to talk about some of the issues that have been brought forward to make those changes in the RR&Ps. Next item on the agenda is ClubTrack Rollout. This is the charter club software that's being introduced. Okay, Katie, you are
Alright.
up.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. And you do have something in your packets that talks to this, but rather than go over that, since you've already got it, I'm going to show you something in a little more detail. Bear with me. So just to give you an idea of the complexity of this project, we are rolling this out in technically 4 different phases. So we are in phases 1 and 2 right now. Phase 0 was ones that we already tracked through our current staff software at the monitor stations. But you can see how complex it is with the 101 now clubs that we have. Some have their own hardware, some have their own software, some have shared club space, some move from room to room. So it's trying to find software that works for everyone is a pretty difficult task. So we broke it down to those 4 phases. We are deploying phases 1 through 2 right now. We'll wrap those up this week and then move into phase 3 next week. It's going pretty quickly. We're doing the training with those groups, and then we will move into putting the hardware, which we've also done in some of those cases as well. Some of them are going to have to put some new network drops into those club rooms. Some are already live and running and testing. Some we just dropped the web-based program onto their existing hardware, so they're going as well. Some we're working with the clubs to get their rosters to us in a digital format that we can import. So a lot of challenges with just the variety of clubs that we have out there. But all in all, it's been going really well. I'm really pleased with how well the majority of clubs have accepted it. We do have some challenges with clubs that don't have dedicated monitors. It's going to be a little more difficult with them, and I'm working with Casey and her team on whether we have to make some procedural changes with how they operate their clubs. So we'll have more feedback on that. But you can see the software here is just pretty basic, and that was the goal all along. So whether you have a dedicated monitor or whether people are checking themselves in, or whether you have a rush of people all at once because it's a class, or whether they come in interspersed throughout the day, the idea was to make it pretty simple so the experience is the same no matter where you go. If you've got a dedicated club space and you check in, you're going to see the same thing if you go over to the social hall and you have a social event for the same club. So it doesn't matter. I'll just go ahead and demo it. So I previously got permission from Donna, thank you, to use her rec card number as our little guinea pig to show you what you're going to see. So the first thing is the picture shows up, and if it doesn't look like the person standing in front of you, you've got a problem. And already this has been a good test on some of those club rosters where they've carried people over from year to year to year. I think we found one person who's been on the rolls for 2 years and shouldn't have been. So we're going to catch some of those folks and get them into member services and get them paid up. But that's not, the main goal is just to make sure the people that are using the facilities and are joining the clubs. So when the person comes up, they scan their rec card. Whatever clubs they belong to will show up on those little orange tabs at the bottom, and they simply click on it and check in for the day. It also allows them to bring in a guest. So we programmed it up to 9 guests. We understand there are some restrictions in the clubs on how many guests you can have in, but we didn't want to go back and reprogram it if that changes. So you can bring up to 9 from a technical perspective, but let's say Donna's bringing in 1 guest today and she's going to check into Boomers, and she's done. So this screen will clear after a couple of seconds. We are still in a beta testing, so some things are going to change. Some of the rosters are going to be updated. So as we go through this, some clubs may experience members swipe their card and they aren't finding those people. Bear with us as we work with the club officers to get those rosters updated. So what might happen if somebody is not updated? Let's say this member, it pulls up, no clubs are found for this member number. What that would indicate is that person is in our database, they're an active owner member, but they haven't joined any clubs, or the club's rosters don't have them on there and the club needs to get them updated. So, but that person would be an active owner member and they could come into the club as a guest. Another number or another message that someone might see is member number not found. That's a good indicator the person has moved, they passed away, or it's just a bad number and it was a typo or they never existed. That person should not be using the club. During these first 2 months through November and December, it's testing, it's getting those rosters cleaned up, it's getting everybody used to this. So it's sort of a grace period. We're not asking the clubs to shut people out. We're asking them to keep maintaining their regular books, use our software, let them in if they would normally pass the test of letting them in. But make note of those numbers and work with us to make sure they're valid or get those numbers cleaned up. And then starting on January 1st, we're going to clean out all the old test data and start from scratch and have good data moving forward. So that is the plan, and we are on schedule for that. One other item we might see on this test person, this is, okay, so this one, she's in good standing, but she might get a message, please see a club officer. That would indicate they're fine with the rec centers, but there's a problem with that specific club. Usually they were on a previous club roster, but there's a problem with the existing club roster. So we as rec centers wouldn't have a problem if they came in, but that indicates with that particular club, there's an issue. They don't have to come see us, but they need to come see that club. So we programmed it for a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different issues that might come up, and tried to make the messages as simple as possible, because we know we have volunteer monitors out there reading these messages and trying to help the club members figure out where to go on that. So that is the basic overview, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Committee members, Judy?
Katie, can I present a scenario to you? A person walks in to play euchre. They have a rec number. They have not joined the club yet. So how would they sign in for that night?
They can either become a guest of a member with that drop down,
Okay.
or they can just be let in and the club can make note of it. So depending on how that club's bylaws are written, that a person can come twice or whatever as a guest, our system does not take names down, so they may need to write the person's name down, make note that they are a guest twice, and then they join. Our system is supposed to be very simplistic. We're not going to keep track of that. So it's only if they've joined that club. But you can scan the card, and it'll show if they are a member in good standing.
Any other committee members? All righty, Gwen.
Yes, 125791. Katie, we had one issue where it showed they're in good standing, see a club officer. They had joined in late September, so they are currently a member. It didn't show because of timing of data coming to all of you. Yet it was on your system to see a club, or to see a club officer. And when I talked with Diana, it sounds like this individual from our club was a member in 19. How historic do you keep, when each of our clubs on the CR7s, how long do you keep that data information?
So we're going to start fresh on January 1st.
Okay.
Everything's going to be from scratch. And then moving forward, we don't plan on wiping it out again. So if they were historically a member of that club, it'll show something like that, see a club officer, until you give us a new roster, and then they'll if it shows up with an orange button, they're an active member of your club.
Right, and if it doesn't show up with an orange button, they're not found. It's going to show up as a not found, is what I'm hearing otherwise.
It'll show there's no clubs associated with this member, or they'll show other clubs and not yours.
Okay, second question. We have had trouble on 2 occasions going down to the little, the screen is blank when we come in the morning, or it goes blank at some time during maybe an evening class. Again, this is yoga club. So we go down to the bottom, we go to the little globe, and it's not bringing up Beardsley's Rec Center and allowing us to connect the Wi-Fi. It's not bringing up the Wi-Fi. We at least don't have in place the procedures how to get to the Wi-Fi if it doesn't bring that splash page up.
Right. So we're in the process of ordering new access point Wi-Fis for you guys. It'll be very specific, and you won't have to do that refresh every 12 hours.
Good.
So that was just a get you going, get you practicing till we can order the hardware.
Test
so
database.
Give us till next week.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Donna. Sharon Chesney, 111317. Okay, so we submit our new list to you, and you upload them January 1st. January is usually our open enrollment, so by February, end of February, March 1st, say we have 20 people that did not rejoin. So do we send you an updated list, and then you're going to take them out? Because
So there's multiple ways you can do that. If you got the email from Phil that had the template that we're asking you to use,
Right.
okay, so use that format. You can either do an entire roster with the adds and deleted already handled, and we'll overwrite your entire roster, or you can say add these 20 people or delete these 5 people, and we can do the onesies, twosies, or we can just do a complete overwrite.
Okay,
However you want.
so how often are we doing that? Monthly, weekly?
We're going to try to accommodate whatever the clubs need. We understand some have a lot of activity, some don't have many changes. This is all new for us. There's a lot of clubs. This is something we're trying to decide, how much is the IT staff going to do? How much is Casey's staff going to do? So can't make promises on the time frame, but we've got a lot of people on the shared email that are receiving these. And when it gets smoothed out, we're hoping to have, no more than a 24-hour lag time on the updates. So it'll be up to you on how often you want to submit your roster.
So we just submit it to Phil? Additions, deletions, or?
No, submit it to clubtrack@suncitywest.com.
Okay, all
So
right.
that email address was in the bottom of the email that you got.
Okay, I'll look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Very exciting. All righty, next item on the agenda, capital improvement projects. Carl, you are up.
It's that time of the year again.
Yes.
Thank you, Director Maloney, members of the committee. According to our capital project planning process, Katie, if you could throw up the little "you are here." Last year, Donna and myself and other staff, we worked very hard on revising our capital project planning process per our policies. The governing board did approve this addendum. All the points of interest of our policies are in this addendum, so the policy hasn't changed, but the roadmap to help us follow it has. And that purple circle right there is showing you where we are in the capital project planning process. We have currently received all interested projects. We have reviewed the reserve study modeling tool for repair and replacement projects, and we have created the overall capital project list. Where we stand today in the months of October and November, any CR 13 requests from clubs have already been through the committee's doors, if you will, for presentations and recommendations to the governing board. Now that that is complete, the official list is finalized. And this list that I'm going to go over today is simply the list that will be delivered to the general manager on December 1st after review from the governing board. Following this process, though, all 3 committees, charter clubs, properties, and BNF in the month of November get an opportunity to do a simple review of that list. This is not budget discussion timelines, though. So the fact that you are the chartered clubs, a lot of these items on this list aren't necessarily relevant, but I still want to review the whole list with you. So, Katie, if you could put up the capital improvement projects list. Starting off at the top, all these items that you're going to see here in blue are repair and replacement items right from the reserve study modeling tool. You'll see that next year we propose 2 asphalt projects, one at Deer Valley and one at R.H. Johnson. Probably the most relevant thing here for this committee is how it affects property use. So the R.H. Johnson parking lot mill and resurface project consists of tearing out all the asphalt and replacing with new from ARC at the men's club side, all the way through the common drive just east of the library. So at some point next year, we'll do a multi-phase project on milling and replacing all that asphalt. Moving down the list, repair and replacements, we have 2 flooring areas, the Palm Ridge Aquatic Center and the R.H. Johnson Admin Building. Continuing on, we have 2 of the 8 projects that we title projects. Palm Ridge Aquatic Outdoors Pool Shade Canopy Fabric is due for replacement, and the R.H. Johnson Mini Golf Lighting and Wiring Replacement. We have a line item for equipment. We have 16 line items for roofs, 13 of which are going to be the golf course maintenance buildings, so 7 maintenance buildings and 7 pro shop buildings, and 3 rec centers. R.H. Johnson's Men's Club roof, the R.H. Johnson Arts and Crafts flat roof, and the maintenance building at Kuntz over by the tennis facility. Moving on, these next 6 of the 8 projects total are what we call new or CR13 requests, particularly involve you as charter clubs, so I will review them each in detail. Rip and Sew cabinet reface. You saw the presentation from Rip and Sew for refacing of the cabinetry and repairs. The budget will be proposed for $36,000. We've had a CR13 request from Clay Club over at Beardsley for a new monitor station, $30,000 placed in the budget, $20,000 of which the club has offered to fund. A new request from staff, R.H. Johnson Environmental Services Yard. This is a property fence and gates on the west side of Environmental Services, which is the service yard near Fry's, and along between the big dirt pile that's back there, if anybody's not familiar, the oleanders and the mini golf. We would like to enclose that whole area with fencing to secure our equipment and vehicles, and then add gates at the very entrance nearest Fry's and our social hall entry. That's being proposed for $44,000. The R.H. Johnson Maintenance Yard storage connex. So this season, I am getting ready to build an office addition for the Environmental Services office crew, and it will be displacing their storage connexes, and we'll be demoing their old office. Once that's done, we would like to take the old storage connexes and create a little enclosure for the actual vehicles that will no longer be able to be stored due to that addition. So that's simply taking 2 of our existing buildings or storage containers, putting a steel roof over the top, and enclosing both ends with gates and fencing. Moving on to Beardsley. The staff at Beardsley has asked for the Arts and Crafts storage yard right along 128th Avenue. There's a masonry enclosure that exists today. Currently, we're having a lot of theft, people burglarizing, or trying to live in there at night. So staff has asked if I could raise those masonry walls up to about a 6 or 7 foot level, make them secure, a little bit pointy and barbed, and then a fence along the walkway side, and completely enclose that with a new gate. And then finally, the R.H. Johnson Rec Center's community streets at North Lasso Drive and West Limewood Drive. If anybody lives in those areas or ever driven down there, these are dead-end community streets that end with chain link fence. On a regular basis, the chain link fence are damaged or broken into, and we get a lot of traffic coming from outside our community. These dead ends were originally Del Webb's operational streets to go to the building yards that are along Bell Road. So we've had a lot of community requests. Governing board directors from the past have asked if we could have this enclosed with masonry walls. So I propose to include $75,000 to figure this project out and have masonry walls built next year. The next section is for golf projects and equipment. And then finally, we have allowances. And allowances are our yearly dollar values that we put in for items like equipment, information technology, emergency well pump replacement, safety and structural and integrity needs, energy conservation. You will notice is a $370,000 line item. This surpasses any energy conservation amount that we've ever put in the past. Generally, it's in the $30,000 to $50,000 range. but this is to complete 100% of all of our rec centers. So R.H. Johnson is the last rec center that hasn't had all of its lights converted to LED lighting. So we would like to place in the budget the full amount, get it done in 1 year, and be done with all energy conservation lighting. And then the last is ADA compliance, and then changing demographics. Any questions?
Judy?
Is changing demographics.
Changing demographics is simply funding for moments where we're in the middle of some important conversation with the membership or staff or general governing board, and a project needs to happen out of sequence. So something that wasn't expected in the year.
Any other comments from the committee? Any comments from the audience? Well, Carl, I thought this was great. Oh, please step up to the mic. This is Ann, our governing board treasurer.
Ann Brown, 128199, I think. Anyway, on the irrigation system, is that finalized with ADWR yet?
I'm sorry that Todd is not here today to represent that, so I would have to get you that information through him.
Okay, I just wanted to ask you now because I think it'll come up at BNF meeting.
And I believe that Todd will be at the BNF meeting for that purpose and the dollar amount.
Okay, another question, could you please total each category for us and then a grand total when we see it for BNF, please?
You will have that.
Just anticipating the questions you'll get, Carl.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
Anyone else? All righty. Carl,
you.
this was great. Thank you so very much.
Have a good day.
Again, committee members, this was informational for us, and we can move forward. Everybody okay? All righty. I would like to now move into old business. And first item on that has to do with guest fees and additional definitions. And if everyone will recall, at the last meeting, a question was brought forward regarding guest policy. And so it was determined that could we do a better job at giving better clarity in the RR&Ps? And part of that was to add specific definitions regarding what is a recreation card holder, what is a non-recreation card holder, and again, what's a recreation card holder guest, and what is a non-recreation card holder guest. And I would like to read each of those for everyone for the record. A recreation card holder is a person who possesses an owner member, associate member, or tenant activity card allowing access to recreational facilities and participation in association activities. Next item, non-recreation card holder is a person who has no access to recreational facilities or participation in association activities without invitation and accompaniment of a club member. A recreation card holder guest is a resident of Sun City West with an owner member, associate member, or tenant activity card who is qualified to join any chartered club. A non-recreation card holder guest is a person who does not possess an owner member, associate member, or tenant activity card and is not qualified to join any chartered club. I would like to stop there and ask committee members, are we in agreement with those definitions? And are there any comments or concerns? Anything from the audience? Oh my goodness, Jack, I've missed you.
You knew I couldn't go by.
I was thinking it's too good to be true.
Yeah, Jack Leary, 128260. What is the definition of a recreation card holder that is not in good standing?
I think, Jeff, the definition, or Jack, the definition is, I'm sorry, you've got to go get in good standing before you are able to participate in any activity here in
Yes, no,
Cincinnati.
I get that, but why is it not on that list?
It seemed like the confusion was between a recreation card holder and a non-recreation card holder. And so what I'm hearing is you want me to add a recreation card holder not in good standing? Is that what you would like?
It's a suggestion, and I think it would help make that list complete.
Committee members, what do you think of Jack's request?
I think that,
Please talk into the mic,
okay, I
Kathy.
think that is defined by non-recreation card holder. If they're not in good standing, they are not a card holder.
Oh, that's kind of like a good point, don't you think, Jack?
It's a good point, but I still have a card. And I'm still a card holder.
Donna?
But again, wherever you go and whatever you want to do, as soon as you present that card, it's gonna be null and void. It's like a credit card that has been closed. You can't, nothing happens.
Okay, that's fine, just a suggestion.
Donna?
And Karen,
Where it
yes,
says is not qualified to join, well, and they would not be qualified if they were not in good standing for any of these. So the not qualified would absorb some of that.
thank you, Karen. I love it when people help to support things. This is good. Okay, I see no one else up at the mic, so I would like to have consensus on adding the definitions of rec card holder, non-recreation card holder, recreation. Oh, Madam President, Sue Fitzsimons.
Okay, why don't you just add something to one of the statements that indicates that has to be in good standing? Would that take care of Jack's issue?
Where would you recommend that we add that? Into a recreation card holder is a person who possesses owner member, associate member, or tenant activity card in good standing?
Yes.
All righty.
Yeah.
We
Would
will
that- would that
add
solve
then
it?
after tenant activity card, in good standing. Thank you, Madam President. All righty. May I have from the committee consensus to move all this forward? All those in favor, aye. Any nays? So we will move those forward. Next, I would like to address in definitions Charter Club guest and Charter Club visitor. And again, for clarity, we would like to add under Charter Club guest is one who participates in any club activity using equipment and/or supplies within the club. We would like to add language that says association guest fee is required. Moving on to Charter Club visitor is one who observes or tours a club activity not using equipment and/or supplies within the club. Association guest fee is not required. Comments or concerns from committee? Anyone from the audience? Oh, let's step forward to the mic. We have two.
What about the people that
Give your
come-
name and.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sharon
That's
Chesney.
okay.
I should remember. Sharon Chesney, 111317. What about the people that come? They bring their own computer. They're coming to a scrapbooking class, a digital class. So they're coming to a class. They're not using any of the club supplies. They're using, space and knowledge from the instructor, but they're bringing their own computer.
Okay, if they are not using club equipment and/or supplies, they are technically a visitor and no association fee is required.
So they're attending a class, actually.
Are they,
There's no class fee, but they would be attending a class, possibly preventing another member from coming.
is this a class? They are learning something?
Yes.
Okay, then they are participating in a club activity. So then a guest fee is required.
Okay, but they're not, how your definition is, it says not using club equipment or supplies.
But they are participating in a club activity, and your club activity is teaching.
Right. So does it say that on there? Can you put that
it
back
needs
up
to be
there?
reworded.
Because I think it says supplies or equipment only, and we would like it to,
Okay, when
participate, in a club activity. But it says
yes, when it
using,
says participates in any club activity. So if you are having a class, that is a club activity.
but this can be interpreted as participating in a class using equipment and or supplies within the club. They are participating in a class, but they're not using equipment or supplies with the club. They're bringing their own computer, but they're using time and space and possibly preventing another club member from coming. So I think it should also say participating, I don't know, somehow with.
Okay,
And/or
maybe I
using.
could just, would it be all right if we said is one who participates in any club activity and/or
Or using.
using?
Got it.
So I will add the language and/or using. All righty?
Yep.
Thank you. And we have Dory Miller next at the mic. Yes, ma'am.
109397. I'm talking as a member of this community. You tipped on that, but you're saying that here's my problem. If my granddaughter comes to the clay club and wants to make something with me, she is not allowed to touch anything but the cloth that I put on the table and my supplies, because you're saying they cannot touch any supplies or any equipment that is in that club.
I don't think I have the word touch anywhere.
Well,
I
that's
think
in
if
that's mine. If I have all of my own supplies, the clay, the tools, and everything, and she's sitting there at the table, but she's not allowed to touch the equipment.
Is she going to
make something?
take her product and use the kiln?
No, I would be using the kiln. Children can't use a kiln. So if I take her item and I pay for the use of it, I then have to also pay $3.50 for her to come into the club and use the club. That's what you're
Yes,
saying.
if she is using club equipment in any manner
In
or
any manner,
supplies.
even though I'm the one that's putting it in and touching everything. Okay.
Okay, Sharon is coming back to the mic. And I trust that if I am misstating something, that staff like Casey or Bill, will correct me. Thank you. Yes, Sharon.
Well, how you explained it to me when we talked a couple months ago, you told me it really, and it'd be nice if maybe this was in there, based on level of participation. If they're coming to observe and, socialize and not partake in club activities, supplies, or whatever, they are a visitor.
Correct.
If they come to attend a class, partake in stuff, then they are, they have to pay the fee. So
Yes.
like, where'd Dory go? So
Yes.
like her person who comes, even though they're using her supplies, but they're also participating, so their
Yes.
level, so I
They
think
need to pay.
so I think if you could put something in there, because we started to rewrite this, about their level of participation, because that I think is very clear. If they're socializing or observing and not using this stuff, they're a visitor. If they're partaking in a class or an event or a party or participating in a class or making a thing or the digital scrapbooking who's learning, they have to pay. So it's participation, and I think that really explains it very well. Level of participation. So observing or socializing or not using equipment, they're a visitor. And otherwise, if they're doing this other stuff, then they need to pay. Because if Dory's person comes and just uses her stuff, they're using the table, they're using a space, they might be preventing somebody else from attending that. They should pay if they're benefiting from that.
I thought we fixed it by adding and or using. So I think we're okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, Jack, this is?
Yeah, Jack Leary, 128260. Question. Given that we now have 101 clubs, how will this be enforced?
That's operations. That's operations.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's their problem.
We're gonna have the activity police?
Again, that's operations, and we here make recommendations for policy, rules and regulations. All righty.
I have
Judy.
just a question. So somebody comes to Euchre and is trying to decide whether they want to join. Now, we have not charged them, True Confessions, whoever.
Are they a rec card holder or?
They are rec card holders,
Okay,
just
and in
coming
the
to
club
check.
bylaws, it should state how many times a
3.
recreation
We
card
have that.
holder may come into your Euchre before being required to join the club.
Fine, but then they would have to pay for those 3 times that they're allowed to come free? They would have to pay the association guest fee?
No, because they are a rec card holder.
Got it. All right, thank you.
No problem. Anyone else? No more comments. Okay. I would like to ask for consensus then to move language. Specifically, we are adding on recreation card holder. It will say, is a person who possesses an owner member, associate member, or tenant activity card in good standing, allowing access to recreational facilities and participation in association activities. And we will be also adding on charter club guest is one who participates in any club activity and or using equipment and or supplies within the club. Association fee is required. Those are the only 2 amendments. And I'd like consensus to move all these added definitions forward to the governing board workshop. May I have all the ayes? Are there any nays? All righty, they will be moved forward to the governing board workshop. Now, moving forward into the RR&Ps, making recommended changes in the RR&Ps regarding guest policy. And again, I would like to remind everyone that we are being focused on trying to not be redundant and trying to be more concise. So under A, club guests, clubs exist for the benefit of their members. We are asking to delete a member may wish to share the club experience with an occasional guest. The term occasional shall be defined in club bylaws. We are adding club guests shall be defined in charter club bylaws. We are deleting it is the responsibility of the club to determine in their bylaws if a guest may participate in their club's instructional classes. I will repeat what we are asking for. Club guests. Clubs exist for the benefit of their members. Club guests shall be defined in charter club bylaws. That is the recommended change to guest policy on page 18 of the RR&Ps, letter A. I would like to open this up to the committee. Yes, Karen.
Donna, I take it the club bylaws then, before they can become a bylaw, will be looked at so that their club's idea of a guest is in accordance with the RR&Ps
Yes.
as they exist? Or should it say in accordance with the RR&Ps along with this? Because some clubs already have bylaws written that have been approved previously that might not be in compliance.
Right, and so again, that will be operational for them
Yeah.
to advise the appropriate clubs that bylaw change needs to be incorporated. Any other comments? All righty, comments from the audience. All righty, I would like to have consensus for guest policy A to be changed to clubs exist for the benefit of their members. Club guests shall be defined in charter club bylaws. All in favor? Any nays? All righty, we will move that forward. Letter B, there is no change recommended. Club visitors are occasional visitors who accompany club members to observe club activities are allowed. Letter C, recreation card holder guest. We are asking for the deletion of a resident guest or guest is a resident of Sun City West with a current recreation center's card who has not formally joined that club but is qualified to do so. We would like to add may attend and or participate in club activities before being required to join a club per club bylaws. I will read this as to what we would like it to say. Recreation card holder guests may attend and or participate in club activities before being required to join a club per club bylaws. All righty, everyone okay with that? Any comments?
You're saying that You're saying
Yes,
that
Mary
no
Kay.
association guest fee is required, but if they're not a member of that.
Again, it would be determined whether they are just attending and or if they are participating.
Okay.
And that would be defined in the club bylaws.
Okay, so if they're participating, then the
Yes.
fee would.
Correct. Everyone, I'd like consensus to move C forward to the workshop. All those in favor, aye. Any nays? All righty, we will move that forward. Letter D, non-recreation card holder guest. We are asking to delete a person who does not possess an owner member, associate member, or tenant activity card, who occasionally, again, deleting by a charter club member. The charter club member must accompany this category of guests when using the club facility. It is the responsibility of the officers of the charter clubs and their members to see that such invitations are not abused and that they comply with club bylaws. Again, I will read what the recommendation is. Non-recreation card holder guest is invited and accompanied by a club member to attend and or participate in chartered club activities per club bylaws. Any comments from the committee? Comments from the audience? I would like consensus then to move that forward. All those in favor, aye. Any nays? All righty, we will move that forward. Moving on to item 1. We are asking for the deletion of non-recreation card holder guests shall not be admitted to a club activity unaccompanied by a member. That's a redundancy, and we've already stated that, so we would like that deleted. And then moving on to 7, again, this says the non-recreation card holder guest policy adopted by each charter club in its bylaws must address the number of times a club member may bring a non-recreation card holder guest to a club activity per year. And again, both of these items will be addressed in the club bylaws. Comments? All those in favor of moving this forward to the workshop? Aye. All those against? None? We shall move that forward. This is really good. I'm getting like winded here. All righty. moving on to the last item under old business. This is Chartered Club RR&Ps. And this again deals with club purpose, space, and activity similarities. And I'd like to turn this over to Judy.
Thanks. I obviously read the RR&Ps and bylaws as they came on this committee and noticed that this was a situation that actually had been brought to my attention by several clubs. And I'm just going to mention to you a couple scenarios that were brought to me and how they might apply to this part of the RR&Ps. First of all, I'm just going to mention line dancing. We have a line dancing club. We also have other dance clubs that offer line dance lessons. The scenarios that I've been told about is a person bringing their country western, is that the name of the club? Card to line dancing and thinking they could get in and be a line dancer because they have a country western card. And they offered line dancing lessons. So it was a confusion for the people, and, you know, why is there duplication? A second situation was Euchre Club. We have a Euchre Club as part of Card Players of Sun City West, and another club was also offering euchre and euchre lessons on the same night and time as the Euchre Club. There was actually somebody that came to the Euchre Club late because they went to the other one by mistake. They had already talked to us about it and then realized that they were at the wrong place at the wrong time. So if rooms are at a premium, the question is how we can authorize several rooms for the same purpose. I guess that's part of the situation. And the other is that we don't want to confuse our members. And those are just two scenarios that I know of firsthand. I'm pretty sure there are others. And then my other question with this is, why are we excluding the women's and the men's club?
That's per bylaws, association bylaws. And so the recommendation for a correction in the RR&Ps to be consistent with the association bylaws under Article 08, we would like to recommend changing letter E to read, a charter will not be granted to groups whose activities are similar in design and/or purpose as an existing chartered club, excluding women's or men's club. That's a recommended change to the RR&Ps to be consistent with Association Bylaws, Article 08. And comments from the board, the committee? Kathy?
What about existing activities, clubs?
That's what it says, as an existing.
But this says we're not going to grant.
Right.
So what about the ones that we have already granted charter status to that are
Again, that
duplicating?
falls under operations.
I wouldn't mind your help though, Kathleen.
What?
I said I wouldn't mind your help though.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
She's on board, Casey.
It's kind of out there. I've talked to a couple clubs in regards to what Judy spoke of, so it's just I put a little feeler in there. So,
Bernie, do you want to say something?
Yes, Bernie Reed, 131417. I'm just confused by exactly what's trying to be done with this. Similar activities means that if you have a country western dance club, for example, and I don't country western dance, but I know that they do line dance. So they wouldn't be allowed to do any line dancing at their activities because there's a line dancing club? Because they're
Casey, I'm
similar.
going to let you handle this.
And if you're in a pinochle club and you play with cards, and then you go to somebody that's in a bridge club and they play with cards. They're similar that they play in cards. So do they dissolve one club? How does all that work?
Okay, in regards to the line dance question, on our end, we get to hear from the presidents that one club is playing a certain genre and they shouldn't be, and it is kind of in conflict with the line dance. So it's two clubs that are kind of against what they're already doing already. Does that make sense?
No, that's why I'm up here. Because
Does that not make
if,
sense?
if I'm in a country western club, does that mean that I can't line dance at the country western club? Because there is a line dancing club and we don't want to conflict with them?
You can dance all you want, Bernie, but as far as
No, I'm
the
talking about the
line
change to
dance-
the RR&P.
As far as the line dance goes, it's a similar dance. They're gonna argue with me. I already know that. If they're listening, I'm gonna get an email really quick. But I do have a couple of staff that are members of rock and roll, line dance, and country western, and they all have the same steps.
Oh my. So again, are these clubs are they going to dissolve clubs because they have similar steps? I mean, I don't know what it is you're trying to fix with this. Doesn't make any sense.
It was done a long time ago, and we're just trying to put it, because there is, I don't want to use the word fighting, but there is some bantering between the clubs saying that, well, I already offer that. Why are you allowing them to do that?
I understand that. But my question again is, your club offers line dancing. So can my country western club not allow line dancing? You're not putting a prohibition on it. So what is it you're trying to fix?
That was originally the agreement, correct? It was partner dancing.
Hi, Gwen.
Hi, Donna. Gwen Rhodes, 125791. Yoga Club and Dance Sensations both offer Tai Chi. We have had trouble finding a Pilates instructor through COVID, so we don't currently offer Pilates. Dance Sensations still has a Pilates teacher who didn't quit during the COVID time. So we're both chartered clubs. Can we, and we have no fight with each other over this, by the way, can we both still offer Tai Chi? Can we both still offer Pilates? I think that's a question, and it's really not addressed up there, and we're not fighting over it. But it's a question, because that's kind of what Bernie was talking about.
You know,
We'll start line dancing. No.
okay. Well, I would just like to share that me personally, it seems logical that maybe instead of having all the separate types of dance, that there would just be one club that would be dance, and that maybe, you know,
Well,
1
Tai
week
Chi
a
isn't-
month would be one type of dance, another week during the month would be another type of dance, and so forth, so that it accommodates each one of those different types of dances, and we don't need to have 6 different clubs. We can just have one club
and that's
that then incorporates a number of different versions.
Right.
And so just like with yoga, maybe there can be an exercise that again incorporates all those different types of exercise, chai tea, and I don't know what they all are, but
Tai Chi and
that
Qigong are offered by both.
well, again, I'm
Donna?
just trying to share.
Yeah, Donna?
Yes, I
Can
am.
can I just back up a minute? So the way I'm understanding it is that the reason that this restructuring, trying to integrate similar activities, et cetera, is due to a space issue, cost issues, and stuff like that. So that is the premise why this project was begun, right? Right.
And we're trying to come up with a system that all the children play well together.
No, I understand that, but I'm thinking that because getting to the discussion that was out here is that it's not so much about, gosh, you have it, we have it. It's how do we become more economically feasible by trying to group these things, and that's what it's about. Not, I mean, maybe people are out there infighting or doing whatever, but I mean, that was the basic issue. So that's the focus, is it not, rather than whether you can't line dance or you can line dance or whatever. It's the issue is getting together so that we're being more economically feasible with space and money.
Correct. And to that point, one of those 3 line dance or dance clubs, if you will, is struggling with participation. Not so much the membership numbers, but the participation. So finding a better opportunity for them would actually work if they would kind of work together with the line dance club.
It also might solve some of the issues about getting officers and or monitors.
Yeah.
If some of these clubs combined.
Yeah, of course, that was also mentioned. Some of the clubs, obviously, we're dealing with cannot find officers. So having some of them work together might help find more officers. You already have officers in 2 of those clubs. If they're willing to merge, now you have a little bit stronger leadership to maybe make it a little bit more impact.
Thank you. Yes, Karen.
If I read this correctly, we're saying a charter will not be granted to groups. It's not saying we're taking away any charters. We're looking at in terms of what we already have and whether we can accommodate their requests with what exists or whether there's a need to form a new club. Is that correct?
Yes, and again, it helps with operations to be able to help clubs that are struggling, that are that need help in different areas.
Yeah, and to the card question, Bernie, Judy actually took that under her umbrella for the card players of Sun City West. And so when we do have struggling card groups, we refer them to Judy. So there has been, she loves it. So we do everything in our ability to make sure that we can accommodate all clubs. We don't just wish for them to dissolve or have any means for that whatsoever.
Casey and Donna, one of the other things, and it is maybe a little repetitive, but succinctly, let's say some group of people get together and they say, we want to form a chartered club called the R.H. Johnson Dance Club. Okay? And they want to form this charter and they want to do the same dances that other clubs already are doing. Okay? So they probably would be turned down. Okay, so that's really a big part of the aim and intent of this clause, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Bernie's coming to the mic.
You know, Donna, while he's coming to the mic, I'll just say that, like, you know, with euchre, I mean, we're not saying, okay, you can only play exclusively on Thursday nights when the euchre club plays. If you want to go to Gamesters and play on Saturday night or do whatever you want to do, that's absolutely fine.
My only point is it's what it already says. There was no need to change the language. The purpose of the club. So if the purpose of the club is to have a euchre club, there's already a euchre club. We don't need another euchre club, so it would be turned down. So you don't have to say similar activities. All it is wordsmithing. It's the same thing.
You are correct in that interpretation is relatively the same. It's just a matter of being consistent, that it says the same thing as what the association bylaws state. It's much easier to make the RR&Ps consistent with the bylaws than to try to make the bylaws consistent with the RR&Ps. Okay. Anything else? Alrighty, I would like to ask for consensus to make the change to the RR&Ps on page 12, letter E, to read, a charter will not be granted to groups whose activities are similar in design and/or purpose as an existing chartered club, excluding women's or men's clubs. All those in favor with an aye? Any nays? All righty, we will move this forward to the governing board workshop. That is everything on our agenda today, and I'd like to see if we have any committee comments. Otto? Pat? Judy? Kathy? Mary Kay? Karen? Joel? Diane? Carol?
I think what the club has done with the question of the insurance and the deductible, I think that's a positive for everybody and every club. It's relieved a lot of minds.
Yes. Thank you. And I would just like to make a comment that I appreciate all the committee members that attended the officers' meetings. And I would just like to say thank you so much. We are moving really quickly down the road with making changes, and I thank everyone. Any comments from the audience? Hearing none, our next meeting is November 30th, again, 1:30 here in the lecture hall. Before I adjourn the meeting, I'd like to ask, who's going to be secretary at our next meeting? All right, Carol has volunteered. I appreciate that. And again, Kathy, thank you for being secretary today. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.